I don't know. But so when we get there, so all of us get there, and they have the perimeter of the site blocked off, I guess, for reporters. So like a whole block, and the police didn't want to let us back there, and we're like, we're going back. I mean, I don't care if you arrest me, I'm going back there. So we all go there, and they've got it taped off, and the first responder guy, he's like, you know, ma'am, when we arrived at the scene, your son appeared lifeless. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? Like, did you check his vitals? How do you know? But no one gets in the hole. So what this gentleman says of what I've read, I've actually gone online and done an online manual of trench rescue, like what you're supposed to do. But they're trained to think with their head, not with their heart. And so they said they got there, and that Zach was buried up to his neck, and that he had a brown Carhartt jacket. I'd gotten him the year before, and his head was down and his hoodie was on, and so they couldn't see his face. But they said he appeared non-responsive. But my personal opinion is, again, I'm not an expert in any of it, but again, the research, forensic, postmortem, like clinical studies on it that say that the amount of congestion and edema, like water retention that you have in your lungs and your brain, it has a clinical correlation to survival time. So Zach's official autopsy report was that he died of mechanical asphyxiation with smothering, and they found dirt in his mouth and his nose and his throat, and his lungs and his brain were congested and swelled because of not being able to breathe, 3 times the amount of a normal man. So I personally think, and I don't blame anybody, like they're there and they're not going to risk their life, but Zach's unresponsive because he's unconscious, so I don't know how long he was actually alive, or even if he would saved, if, and so to this guy's point, we get there and it's like a 3-ring circus. There's helicopters flying around. There's literally probably 150 people there all trying to help get Zach out. And, hours start, the first hour we're like, I'm thinking maybe there's this freak chance he'll survive. And then the hour, and then you get to the point where you're like, okay. And then the dirt just kept collapsing, and that was why they couldn't get him out. So it took, by the time we were all there, standing, at the hole, it took until 11 o'clock that night to get him out, because, the dirt just kept collapsing over and over again. So that's what happened that day. And so, again, his mom, like, what can I do? I mean, I'm 52, I would give him my life in a heartbeat if it could, or be there or change that situation, but I can't. So what can I do? So the only thing I thought is, out of this, like, I don't want him to be some nameless statistic up there for 2017, that he's one of the deaths for Ohio. Like, that's not acceptable to me. So, I'm here to advocate and honor him and his life, and to hopefully, share this with people that, it still has to happen. It has to be, to me, this is my opinion on it, is there has to be a cultural shift that everybody in this room has to feel empowered for their own safety. And I think Zach, more than likely, a young kid, he probably didn't even think that he had the opportunity. He should have said, this isn't safe. We shouldn't go down there. Or the guy that he's with should have said, Zach, no, we need to get more equipment, because they did have a trencher box, but it wasn't tall enough. They needed a second one. But, so I would like to advocate for all of you, and to help spread awareness. And I've told people, I've set the bar low. If just one person in this room walks away from this, and the next time they get in the trench, that they have an emotional connection to think, I can die, and you guys are there to get a paycheck, not to put your life on the line. And it can happen that quick. And I think that Zach digging basements, and it's complacency. They've never they haven't seen the trench collapse. It didn't happen to anybody that they knew, you know? And then, you know, it happened that fast. And, you know, so I'm going to segue into, I wrote the eulogy, and people seem to like it, and I put together a slideshow so you can just see Zach as a person. So we'll play that, and then I'll read the eulogy.